All right, good morning once again. Welcome to today's class of front-end development beginner. Last week we explained to ourselves how to use API, what API is, how do we use it, and well, how do we fetch data basically. For now, concerning API, we just have to handle up to focus on fetching API, using API to fetch data. That's basically it. And then we talk about the method in which you can use. We have a method XML HTTPS method. We have the fetch method, but using the Axios may require us to make an install to install something, which we don't have to use those ones yet. So since we are using JavaScript, basically there's an inbuilt function that JavaScript created by itself, which is the fetch method, and that's what we have been using. So just I saw you raised your hand. I don't know if you have anything to say, but then if you don't, all right. If you have something, just unmute yourself and say it now.
No. Let's continue.
Okay, that's cool. All right. So last week we listed few things. We said, okay, we're going to use the fetch, which is what I said just now, one of the method in which you use in fetching data from the backend or from any resources. So, and when we are fetching data, in JavaScript you use API to fetch. That's while in HTML you use CDN. You call it CDN, which is what we have been using. You get a link, a CDN link, and then you link it either to your script or to your header, right? So, and same thing in JavaScript, you get an endpoint. An endpoint. This is an endpoint. This from here. The link is an endpoint. Why? Anything after the endpoint, when you see .com, sometimes you see version 3. Sometimes you see version 3 is still part of the endpoint, right? Maybe the endpoint has a lot of versions. So sometimes it's something like this. And then anything after that is called a query. Anything after that is called query. Then when you are passing stuff to this query, they call it parameter. You guys will understand that later. So yeah. So last class we talked about the fetch. We use fetch, and then we talked about method in which you can use in your API. We can get data from the backend or from an external resources. We can post to the external resources, meaning you can create something to it when you fetch and you want to create your own. So you can also create to it. You can put means edit what was there initially, just make some changes and then put to it, and then you can delete from although based on authentication, if you have been authorized to do it, you'll be able to do it. But then if you are not, then you will not be able to do it. So we explain to ourselves again that in some resources it is written as crude, a crude operation, which is called the create, the read, the update, and the delete. Create is post, read is get, update is put, while delete is delete. So, and then what we were trying to do last week was to fetch data. After fetching the data, then we use the data to populate our web page. So, and then this is what we did. We get the API first from JSON placeholder. So we were able to get the user's API from the JSON placeholder. After that, we store that one inside a variable. This can be placed here. So let's not get confused. This can be placed here. You can place this one here like this. If you don't want to do this one. So it's also the same thing. So it can be done this way. In case you see something like this, don't get lost. It's also the same thing. But it's just a way of me trying to make everything look nice and uh, easy for someone to read. So you store your endpoint in a in a variable, and then you fetch that endpoint. You fetch it. So we use fetch and then a parameter, which is the endpoint. You fetch it, and then after fetching this particular endpoint, if you get the data now, what do you want to do with the data? That's where the callback comes in. And then the fact that we have to use an asynchronous method approach means that you want something to happen before something happens. For example, let's assume we are not using asynchronous now. We're now saying fetch data, but the data is yet to get to us, right? We have not gotten data yet, but we have been displaying the data. That one is going to throw an error. It's more like you trying to get to somewhere, but you've not gotten to that place, but you have been trying to use whatever it is expected to see from that side. So that's why it is best that we use asynchronous, which means you have to wait for a process to be completed before another process will take place. A process must be completed before another one will take place for you to just have a consistent data fetch. So this is what we do here. We fetch data first. So after fetching, dot then. So then that then is that's just the basic meaning. Dot then. So after fetching, what do you want us to do then? So dot then. Now the data that I fetched, I don't want to just copy fetch like this and paste it here again. That okay, that's the data. So I have to represent that data that I fetched with a parameter, which is what we did here. Represent that.
Sorry, please
Yes.
kindly increase the font size.
Okay, thank you. Let me do that. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I'm saying that after fetching the data from the API, we now say dot then when the data is here already in my local environment. What do I want to do with it? So I say dot then now represents that data that you fetch with what? A response. You guys understand the word represent already. I'm just using represent, you call it parameter so that we get to understand better. So that you can now say, okay, whatever it is that is coming from this endpoint is response now. So whatever it is that is now response because we represent it with response. So we're now saying you can either use, if you are using a one-liner, they call it one-liner. One-liner means when you fetch something or you have a function, you can say const get name be equals to, let's say something like this, right? So I'll now say console.log my name. So this is one-liner, meaning this is your function, but the function does not come with a curly braces. But they say at the same time, this thing will work. So if I should say console.log, okay, I'll have to go to my this thing before we want to do that. But this is basically it. So this is one liner. We don't need to have a return statement here for this thing to work because there is no curly braces. If you are using a one liner, then you don't need a return statement. But anytime you are using something like this, const, let's say you have multiple functions or multiple instructions that you want your function to do. Currently, it is just a single function, instruction. Just console my name. That's the only one instruction. So that's why we are using one liner, right? But then if we have multiple functions like get another name is equal to something like this. So we want to have multiple instructions. So in that case, we have to wrap everything inside the curly braces. So this is not a one-liner element. So this is a one-liner, while this is not a one-liner. So in that case, we say, let's say const new name, something new n equals to this, and then you now say return. In this case, that you have multiple instructions, we have to send a return statement, return new na, because we have multiple instructions. So that function has to know that, okay, oh, out of all of this instruction, this is what I want you to return. But the first one here, 59, this one is just one. So already you don't have to tell the guy that this is where it's just okay. Since it's just one, then I have to return this only thing. So that's what happens here. That's what happens here. If you check their own endpoints, they use one liner. Let's check. If you check their own endpoint, they're using one liner. So let's go back to their own endpoint. Come in. Okay.
Well, come and stay. Normally, say house clothes will plenty pass out. Go and put that in.
That.
Put that in now.
Is it bong? Please be very careful with the way you omit yourself. Okay. So let me see what I can turn here. Okay, so I'm trying to visit the placeholder. Can you all see my screen? Trying to visit the JSON placeholder, the website JSON placeholder. Okay, yeah, from the example they gave, they are using a one-liner. As you can see, fetch this endpoint and then then response. So they are representing this with a response, the return with a response. So yeah, they say response.json. Since it's just a single instruction, they don't have to use a curly braces. The same thing as the third one, since it's just a single instruction, they don't have to use what a curly braces. So that's just the difference between a one-liner and then when you use your curly braces, and you don't need a return statement also, since it is just a one-liner. All right, so but in our own case, we have this instruction if this condition, and then we have this, right? So we are saying if this response, first thing we have to check if the response is okay. So we have to check if the response is okay. That means if it is successful. So if not response dot okay, that means if our response, like I said, explained last week, I said this is a negate operator. Just make this thing not true, right? It's a negate operator. If response.okay is not true, right? That means if it is not a success, then console.error response.json. That means return the error that is coming from this response, because if there's an error, then there will be response.json as an error also. So, but then if this is not true, that means if the response is okay, then return response.json. That means convert this our response, our data, to a JSON format. And after converting it, then something will now happen. So then, after converting it, we now want to say then, when you are done converting, then represent whatever you convert. That data that you converted, represent it with what? A JSON. This could be any parameter. It could be data, it could be task, it could be user, it could be anything. So then represent it to what? JSON. And then console.log that JSON for us to see. So, but why do we need this? Is for us to see the structure, how the data is being structured, so that we can know, are we supposed to do h.name, and then to see the name that they used. You know, we have to see the name they use. Maybe it is name, ID, phone number, or whatever. So that's why we do the console. And then having done that, we want to use this data that is coming to populate our UI, our web page. So we go to our index, created this. First thing was we created the structure, how we want it to look like, just a single card of how we want it to look like. So after creating that, we copy that thing that we copied, we cut it out, and then paste it here. We already know how to do all of this one, so I'm not sure. I don't need to like waste time there anymore. So we say let display be equals to JSON.map. Since JSON is an array of objects, so we map it, then represent each of the objects with each. So we now say return, right? Return this. Return this. Let me show us something that we can also do if we don't want to use a return. We can say, we can remove this return and then remove this. Remember, this is going to be what? A one-liner. Is it going to work? Let's see. Okay, so this is a single instruction. Remember, this instruction is wrapped in a template literal, so it is seen as one instruction. So since it's also a single instruction, it is not necessary that we have that curly braces there. And then without the curly braces, we don't need the return statement. So what is best, I mostly like to use that return. So I will see what this thing is returning in particular. So that's just what we did. Then we return this particular structure of HTML, and we use the each.name, each.email, each.phone number, username, and then website, and then we use to populate our data. But we don't just do that. Where do you want this thing to show? Which container do you want this thing to be displayed in? That's where this one comes in. Let row be equals to document.querySelector.row. And remember, row is here. So it is inside this place in our HTML. That's where we want to display everything that we have here. So after getting the row, we now say row.innerHTML will now be equals to what? Display.join. Now let's save it, and then let's start the server and see what we have now. Go live. Okay, I like to use this instead. All right, so this is what we have after fetching the data. So we're able to get the name, email address, phone number, username, websites, the city. One like this is the single data. So city, street, company name, company catchphrase, and then the zip code. So that's just that about that. Now let's see what we can do. Let's try to use the comment, or let's say post, right? Let's assume that okay, after user fetch, you were able to fetch like this. You fetch all the data into the UI, and then you want to have a button or an input for user so that they can add a new thing, more like a Facebook. You know, Facebook will fetch the data first and display the app. And after fetching the whole data and displaying the app, then I'll provide another space for you to add your own. That means if you want to add your own post, there's a space for you to add a post, right? So that's what we are going to do now. So we're going to fetch the data first and then create a space or an input for user to be able to add their own post so that everything can now be shown. Everything they're adding also can now be added to the data, and then we can see it here where we are. So what do we do? Go back to your app, or first thing first, this is users. Well, let's change this to what? To a post. Let's go and look for post. All right, so this is post/posts. So I'm going to use that. Let's use posts. But remember, the structure of post is different from the structure of user. So I'll just comment this out first so that we don't get an error. You know, post, it's possible that post did not have name or did not have email address. So let's just change this and this query to a post first, and then console or log it and see what we have. So since we already have the console here, so let's just this may throw error. So let's save it. Come back here, save it, and then let's see. Go to the console, inspect. We need to see the structure of the data before we can know how to work with it. Okay, body stream is already promised. What's this? The server responded to the status of 404. Why?
Sir, check that query, that post.
Post is A. Thank you. So there's S. All right. Okay, so we have 100 posts. 100 posts. Okay. There's something I'll explain which we have not talked about before. So now let's open one post and see how it is. So we have the body ID, the title, and then the user ID. So basically, you know, normal posts now you see the text itself, which is the body. You see the title of the text of the post, and then you see the ID. Although you not see the ID, or you can see the user ID. The user ID is used to represent the person that posts, the owner of the post. So that's just the user ID. We don't even need to display that one. We don't need it. So let's just say now what we do is restructure this particular one. Let me uncomment it. Now, what do I need? I want to have the post. That means I'll have the title first before the post. But then I can have the title and the user ID. Let's just see how we can represent that. The title and the user ID beside itself. So we have remove all of this first, like card. And then remove all of this. So let's see this. Here is a column 6. Column 6. But we don't need that. We don't need column 6, column 6. We only need one column. So which means this should be 12. No, it should be 12. I hope I'm not wrong. Remove this column. Yeah, so inside this column 6, we have a card. Make this 4. So I want to have 3 on a row. 4, 4, 4. Then inside the column, we have a card. Then inside the card, we need, okay, I don't need a row. I don't really need a row. So remove the row also. So inside the card, the first thing I want to display inside the card is the title and the ID. So I'll just say dot flex if. So I was thinking this will work directly. If, and then I'll flex it class for deflex, right? And then justify content between. Okay, then just below, let me put align items also. Item center. So just below it, I'll have, I think I can have a H1 or let's say H4. H1 will be too big. So H4, H4. And then here I will have what? Each. Type 2 now be each dot title, right? Then under it, I can have the same thing also, another H1. And this will be each dot user ID. If I'm not wrong, user ID. Yep. Then below this one, we want to have the body of that's the content. Let's just use a P for that. Yeah, let's just use a P for that. So we don't just use P for that time. So we say P. Now our base each dot body. Okay. Yep. We are good. Then this again. Let's see what we have. If you have any question concerning what I did, please feel free to ask. But it's simple. I just changed the structure of the previous one that we used with the new one, the new data that we have. That's what I did. So now let's see. Okay, fine. This is fine. So we have title and then the text. We have title and the text. We have title and the text. So, but let's try something. UI based. I know you guys can fix something. You can do something, but you're supposed to, in this case, you're supposed to give a I so that everything will be on the same line. But let's not worry about that. Okay, we've been able to display our data, have everything like this. Let's assume that the data is merged, and the one you want to display on your home page is just I want to display just 10 at a time on my home page. I don't want to have this plenty data like this. How can I even make that happen? There's something they call slice. There's something, a method they call array.slice in JavaScript. So how does it work? Let's assume we have something like this. Let me use my poker so I can explain that better. Poker. Okay. All right. Now, this is it, array.slice. That's just it. So, but then array.slice takes two arguments or parameter, however. It takes the initial and then the initial, that's the initial, and then the limit or something. Let me just use limit. I can't really remember what they call it. So let's assume we have const. Let's array, my array.
I wrote
My array be equals to, now let's assume we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Sorry, sir. Your voice is too low. Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. All right, so can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Yeah, nice.
All right, so let's assume we have, let my array be equals to this array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But then I don't want to, remember last we talked about push and pull and then, push, pop, on shift and shift. But in this my own case, I want to slice it. I don't want it to be 7. I want to have just 3. So what do? I will say const or let's sliced array. This is just a normal name, or it could be anything. Be equals to this is my array that I want to slice. My array dot slice. Now, from what we have, we say start and end exactly, which is the initial and the limit that I used. So where do you want the slice to start from? I want it to start from the 0. That means pick the first one, right? The 0. And then what's the end? Where do you want it to end? The 0, 1, 2. Okay, so I want it to start from the 0. Pick the first one. Pick the second one and the third one, which is 2. If I should do this now, that means start from 0 and end in 2. So I'll now say console CLG sliced array will now
1, 2,
give
3.
me exactly sliced array will give me 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1 and 2. Wow. So it's giving me 1 and 2. Okay, let me just do 3 here. So that means start from that's 0, end for 1, 2, and 3. I guess so. So 1, 2, and 3. I can say I want to start from middle. Let's say I want to start from 4. I'll just say 4, and then the last one. The last one will be the
It's
length of
8.
this one minus 1. Exactly.
8.
But let's assume we don't know it. We just say my array dot length minus 1. So that will give us the last one. Or we could even say dot length self, not minus 1, to give us the last one. So since it is 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, then we get my array dot length. So that means start from here and then end here. Slice this thing, start from here and what? End here. Start from here and end here. Any question concerning this? I want to use it. That's why I have to explain it first. Any question concerning this? All right. That means there's no question. Now let's go to where we were. So here we have, this is 100. The data is 100. And it's too much. Like it's too much here on my screen. So I want to be able to just view, let's say 10 at a time, right? I want to view 10 at a time. I could just say, just before the map, remember this is my array, right? This is my array. I could say let's sliced JSON be equals to JSON dot slice. So what will I be? I want just 10. So what do I do now? Can someone just tell me? JSON dot slice. I need just 10. I don't need 100. So what do I do? What will be my
You
parameter?
put 0,
0 to
0,
9.
comma 10.
9.
10. So we'll
10.
now replace this. Yeah, we replace this with what? Sliced JSON. And then let's save it and see what we have now. All right, so we have just 10. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that's where this one comes in, slice. It's mostly when you have thousands of data and then you can only view 10 at a time. In this case, if you want users to be able to view others, that's where you can say, okay, view more or view all. So when you click on view all, it's going to take them to another page where you can now display everything at once. You don't have to use your slides anymore. So that's that about that. And then, yeah, let's just keep picking this thing one by one. We can't talk about everything at once. We have slides, we have splice, we have split, we have join, we have a lot of things like that that we cannot get to. Like only when we need it, that's when we just talk about it. So right now we need slides and then we need to talk about it. So we have 0 and 10. That means give me just 10 data out of everything that you have. So now what do we want to do exactly? We want to add to this. We want to be able to create to this. First thing, let's see the endpoint to create. So they said post. That's the endpoint to post. That means we need to have a method that will take a post. So let's create where we want to get our data from first. Let's go to the HTML, and then just above the row. Let's have a quick one. Above the row. This thing is looking so rubbish. Let me add something here. Probably inside the container. That's container. This one here. And then click SM. Save it. See what we have. Okay, so let me give space. Margin top 5. Let's give space like that. That's fine. Then we can now add something here. And dot form. So inside our form, we want the user to have username and then the post and the title. That's the 3 things we want to have. So we say, I don't need label. I know you guys know that already. I'll just go straight to the text. So we have so this last one should be a text area. Okay, so we have text. this should represent what? Class. Let's say this should be title or name, right? Then this would be class. Let's say title. Let me use ID for that. ID, yeah? So we have name and then title. Okay, and then here we are going to have what? Content or body or anything. Okay, so don't forget an input needs a value, or let's just go first. Let's see. Before we get to that, we're going to select this first one, the second one, and the third one. Now inside our app.js, how do we select them, please? Can someone assist me? Getting tired. So how do we select them? Oh yeah, now let's talk. I need to select my name. Name input equals to const name
Okay.
input equals to,
Document.
Document dot query selector.
okay, should we use query or get element by ID?
Inner HTML. Get element.
Or get element by ID.
Okay, so what do I get? I'm getting the name.
Name.
Good. So the second one will be, what am I getting for the second one? I'm getting the title. And then the third
Title.
one will be the text, the body. Is it body that I used? Body
Content. It's not content that is the ID.
and content. Yeah, you're right. So this one will be title input,
Title inputs.
and then this one will be
Text
content.
input. Maybe.
Let's just use the content for consistency. All right. So now I want to get the value of each of the. Let's say I want to get the value of the first one. Let's even see what we have first. What? What is this? Please, I can't focus on this UI now, but we can fix that one. So let's name value be equals to name input dot value. All right. So console.log name value. So let's see. Let's go to, although we don't have value in our inputs yet, so I just want to see what we're going to find out here. There's nothing. So let's see if we type incoming. Yeah, let's add a value here. Value. So there's nothing. Okay. Okay, so let's type. Okay. I have to add event listener. Okay, let's do it. Let's just get on with it. I'm coming. Let me see what I can fish out here. Just a minute. I'm just looking for a very easier way to get this done. I don't want to use the
Can we use on key up or key down?
that's too advanced. Or not like advanced, yeah, but let's try something. Name input dot add event listener. So change, want to listen to change, right? So comma this. Where's this coming from? Okay. All right. Console.log. Let me console.log data. Okay. So this should be data. Let's see. What's going on?
Okay, sir, your event listener is supposed to be input.
Okay.
Input, yeah.
Yes, it's supposed to be inputs.
Yes. So let's see. All right. So we are getting the value now. So what we need to Are you really getting the value? Tell me. Type input H. I'm coming. I think I'm missing something here. I'm missing something, right? Coming. Okay, let's try something. Let me see. There's something I'm missing here. I'm thinking I should be able to get this directly just by on click or function, and then I can get this. Okay, let's add a submit button first. Let's see. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Just say what you want to say. Submit.
Okay, I was thinking maybe inside inside the event listener, you
Yeah.
should do data is equals to name input dot value, then console dot log data. I don't know if that's gonna work.
Okay. 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 I'm coming. Let me do this. On submit. Undo submit. 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 App.js. So we say const undo submit equals to console.log. What are we submitting? Submitted. Just for now. Let's see. I need to be sure if that one is working first. So I have submit. Type. Should work fine. Type submit. What's wrong there? Okay. Let's see. Maybe we need. Let me use on click. On submit should work fine. Submit. Let's try this. Choosing. Submit. Okay. Submitted. Let's go submit now. Okay, so let me do this. I want to print out that the value, name input the value, name in console.log, name input the value, and I submit. No. Okay. Yeah, that works. I don't want to use this add event listener. It's a little bit too complicated. That's why I'm just looking for easier way. So now this is what we're able to do. Remove this. So after creating the name inputs, we created the name input, the title input, and then the text area, which is the content input. We created a button under it so that when you click on the submit button, you get the value from this one, get the value from this one, get the value from this one, and then use it to post. Use it as a post method to post something to this one. So that's what we did here. We were able to get by ID, and then you use a button type submit, and then on click submit. That means, okay, when I click on this, I want this submit function to run. So we say const submit equals to console.log submit. This is just for us to check first if the submit button is working. And then inside it, we say console.log name input dot value. That means anything that we have inside our name input, I want to get the value of it. So let's do that for title input also. See if you're going to get it. Title input, and then content input. Right now, let's save it and see what we have. Let's say the name input is simple. The title is my grade. Then the last one, which is the content, will now be this is not funny, something like that. And then submit. Fine. So we're able to get the simple to my grade, and then this is not funny. So one thing that we will have to add now is maybe the ID. For every time you add something, then you need an ID. That will be a little bit complicated for us. A little bit complicated because I will need to have an index. But then let's focus on adding this to what we need to add first. So we go and fetch again. Let's say let's just represent whatever it is that we are getting. The input value, let's represent it with something first. So let's say let's name value be equals to name input dot value, right? So we are representing whatever it is that we are getting from here with name value. I don't want to be replacing name input dot value every time. So I'll do the same thing for the text, for the title, and then the same thing for the content. So we change this also to title, and we change this to what? Content. All right. So then let's go on by doing our fetch. So let's say or let's just fetch directly, or let's let API URL be equals to, let's get the API URL first, to post, API URL to post. We just add /post to our endpoint. So what is our initial endpoint? This is it. Just add /post to it, like this, and then post. Okay.
Sir, please add S.
S. I always miss that S. Thank you. Thank you. But something is.
And you have to remove the template literal. I don't understand.
Yeah, thank you. Coming in, I'm trying to understand something here. Trying to understand something here. Get post one, get post, put inside post and patch post and then delete post. All right, that makes sense. Okay, so now let's fetch. We say fetch. What are we fetching? We are fetching API URL, right? So in this case, before we do our .then, we need to have a header and then a method, like I said earlier, that we need a method and then a header so that we can use it to fetch whatever we want to fetch. Because when you have a get in the initial, you don't need to pass any method to it, because by default everything is what is get. When we are using a post, we have to add a method which we now specify that this is a post, and then you add headers so that it's going to convert everything to application.json. I will show you guys how to do that. And then I don't really, okay, let's do that first. Let's see how we get that ready. So here we say comma, and then we add method, will now be post, right, comma, and then we add header, and then our header will now be coming, this header will be content type will now be application/JSON. Okay, so what is happening here is very easy. It's simple also, so we don't have to get like confused or something. Coming, this is its content type, application JSON. So this is what we want to do. We are fetching our API. why are we fetching first before we post? We just want to tell the API or the fetch function that, okay, this is where we want to have the effect of our post. This is the endpoint that we want to do our effect. If we add user here, that means whatever we are doing is going to be added to the user endpoint. But in this case, we want it to be added towards our post endpoint. So then we're adding a method. If you do not add any method, it's going to assume that you want to fetch. That means you want to fetch whatever it is that we have initially from the backend. But in this case, we are adding a method that, okay, this one now, we are not fetching anymore. We want to post. That's what we want to do right now, right? And then after that, we are adding a header, because when you are posting something, you have to convert, you have to let it know that, okay, this should be posted to the backend. What kind of content are you posting? Let me just put that way. What is the type of content you are posting? But because our content is going to be coming as an object like this, right? So that's why we are saying it's going to be a JSON format, a JavaScript object notation. You're saying the content type of this my post or whatever that I will be posting is going to be what? Application.json. We have, I think, 5 type of content type. When you are using form data, we have XML form, we have multi-data form, we have a lot of stuff like that, right? But in this our own case, what we are sending to the backend or what we are posting is what? Application/JSON. So it's just a name. It's just a name that you use to specify the type of data you are posting. All right. And then after that, we now specify what exactly are you posting, right? What are we posting to this backend? In that case, we add a body parameter to it. So that body will now take what we are posting exactly. So let's assume this should be, post object be equals to, I want to create an object for it. Let post object be equals to name value. Then this will now take name input of value. And then title value. Then this will take title input of value. And then the last one, content value, will take content input value. Okay, so let's just comment this out. So this is what we want to paste. This object, after getting it from our inputs, after it has been able to type and then all of that. So we want to be able to get that particular thing to our post inside our body, and then we now post it to the backend. So how do we do that? Inside your post, you have JSON. This thing is getting really messy. So get JSON.springify our post object. All right. So here it is. Let's come again. Let's just start all over again. The first thing we did was to get the input or the value from our input. After getting the value from our input, we created a submit button so that whenever you click on submit, all those value, you want to use it for something. Not just for something, you want to post it to the backend so that it can be displayed together with the ones you have before. All right. Now, we want to send an object. That's what we want to send. We don't want to. We can have it this way too. We can have it like this. Let me copy it. If you don't want to do this one, you can have something like this. No, sorry, like this. See, this is also an object, although you wrap it inside an object bracket, right? But instead of having it like this, we choose to create this one outside first. We create it outside first and then pass the post object here. So then after that, after creating this, we fetch the API. Since we want to post inside a post, then we say fetch API, and then we'll pass a method. What kind of method are you doing now? Is it a put method? Is it a delete method, or an update method? But in this our case, it is what a post method. We want to post this one to the endpoint. Right now, you are specifying what type of data are you posting. What type of data are you posting? That's where the header comes in. The content type of this post is what? Is application.json or /json. That's the type of the data I'm posting currently. Right now, it is time for us to now, okay, where is the data that you want to post? The first thing is the method. The second thing is the type, and then the third thing is what is the data that you want to post, which is always inside the body of a fetch or of a fetch function or method. So why do we use this JSON.stringify? When okay, let's do this before we go to that. We have JSON.parse, and then we have JSON.stringify. JSON.stringify. JSON.stringify will turn something to a string. If you have an object and you want to send it to the backend, you have an object that you want to send to the backend. Oh my God. Hello, can you guys hear me? I'm seeing the chat now that you guys cannot hear me at all, so I just need to know if I'm still audible enough.
Yeah, I've been finding it hard today, but right now it's okay.
Okay, I think I'll have to take my earpiece close to my mouth. Okay, so what I'm saying is you have an object that you want to send to the backend, but it is not, you don't get to send the object directly. You don't send it directly. You have to make it a stringify. That means convert it to a string and then send it to the backend, so that at the backend it's going to come as what? As a string, not as an object, right? And then when you want to fetch it back, when you want to fetch it, in some cases, maybe you're fetching something and then you stringify it. If you want to get it back, you get it as what? As a pass. This is how it works. Let's assume I do something like this. Let's assume I have local storage dot set item. I'm not explaining this. I just want to show an example. Data. And then I do this JSON. I want to store something in my local storage. JSON dot stringify, right? So I'm storing this thing as a string. Now, if I want to use it back, I now say local storage. This is to store, right? It's the same thing as sending it to the backend, just like this one also. So you are sending this to the backend. That's why we are using JSON.stringify. That means string it, make it a string, and then send it to the backend. So it's going to be very readable and meaningful to the backend, right? So now, if you want to use it, you say get item, data, and then you now say you can just wrap everything like this: coming const get it equal to JSON.parse. Get it. There's no data. We're just using this as an example. So here is how this works. I have a data that I want to send to the backend, or I want to store somewhere, right? So I will use JSON dot, that means JavaScript object notation, store this thing or convert this particular data to a stringify and store it and send it to the backend. Then after sending it, let it be meaningful to whoever is reading it from the backend, or whichever place or database that we want to store it in the backend. If it is local storage, if it is MySQL, if it is any place, let it make sense there. Then when we are getting it back, we are getting it as what? As pass. We are getting it back as pass. We are going to get to that one later, but let's not get carried away on that. Just basically what you need to do, body will now be JSON.stringify, then you are posting the object that you created initially here. You're posting it here. Do we have any question? Are we all clear? Do we have any question concerning that? Please, if you have any question, please let me know. So okay. David, please, can you unmute?
Okay, it's about this your fetch API URL where you put this method and post. I want to know, is it that this post, like, is it going to appear like I don't know how to put it, but is it going to appear like a text or something? I don't know what really that you are trying to do there, Sha. So I just want to, maybe you can explain it again.
You mean the method?
Yes, yeah.
Well, this is the structure of it. This is how, if I understand what you're trying to say, when you are making a fetch is just a name. It sounds like fetch, that you can only fetch something, but that's not it. It's basically to fetch the API. So I'm fetching this endpoint now. So I can now decide, after fetching the endpoint, what do you want to do with the endpoint? That's where the method comes in. So If the method is not there, it's going to see it automatically by default that you want to get whatever it is that is inside the endpoint. But in this case, we are passing a method and we are specifying that, okay, everything in front of it should be a string. It should be a string. This one will not, we are not seeing it in our own end. We are not seeing it when we fetch it back, because it's not being sent to the backend. The post is not being sent. It's just a variable to tell the fetch method that, okay, this particular one is going to be a post. So the string, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it is being written. Send it as a post, and then it should be inside the string. And it can't be like this. You can't have it like this. It's not going to work. It's more like something that someone created and then make it a constant that anytime someone wants to post something, then it should be what? In capital letter, and then it should be what? A string. So it's not something we can make changes to or change or anyhow. So the same thing happened to the header. It's just us telling the fetch that this is the method I want to do in this type of. Remember, this one here, we are not specifying anything because we are fetching directly. While this one, we are getting. So sorry, we are posting. So we make a method post. And then the header, yeah, the header is now telling us that what type of content are you trying to send? What type of content? What is the type of your data? So we now tell it that, okay, I want to send what? Application.json. That's what I want to send. We have, like I said, we have a lot of content type. We have form data, we have XML, we have multi-data and all of that. But for now, then the one you mostly work with is what? Application/JSON. So that's that. And then after specifying these two, what is left for you to now say is, okay, what is the data that you want to send exactly? Now let me see the data you want to send. If I should send it like this, there's every possibility that it's going to work, but it's going to like disturb the backend. The backend may be structured in a stringify manner, and then if you are sending an object that is not in a stringify structure, then it's going to cause a lot of error to the backend. That's why you have to stringify it first before sending it to the backend. Although this is basically what JSON placeholder are specified. If you're working with a backend person, it's possible that they don't want this to be to be a stringify. So you can just ask them, and even from the documentation, you see it that send a stringify data or send application. Let your content type be application.json or /json. Let your content type be They will specify what they want, how they were able to structure their own. They will specify it. Do you understand? So can't see my screen.
Yes, well understood.
Okay, so now having done that, what is next for us to do is after passing the object that you want to send to the backend inside the body, remember you method colon, header column, and then body then column. So we now say after doing all of this thing, dot then, just the way we did it initially, dot then. So that dot then, just like I said earlier, when you fetch, you post whatever you want to post, what do you want to happen next? You just post and then you leave it there. Then you can just say, okay, after posting, nothing should happen, then nothing will happen. But I want to get something back. So after this thing is being posted, what do I want? So you represent the return from that fetch with a variable. You represent it with a variable. You can just call it anything, like we've been saying earlier. So let's just call it res. That is what people use mostly. Is response. And then you can now say, remember, our response has to be converted back to a JSON, res.json, for us to be able to view it normally like an object. And then .then, after converting, what else again? .then, let's now console.log the data that is coming, right? Let's say the data, and then console.log data. Right, now let's save it and see if this is going to work fine. Everything is still inside the submit button. Everything, like you see, is inside the submit button. Now let's try it and see how this thing will work. Let me see how many persons is still on this call. 14. People are getting really scared. Okay, let's see. Let's try it with my name. Let's say David. Right, and then the second thing, let's say my cat. I don't know why I like talking about my cat. My cat, and then I can now say my cat is a very big cat, right? So I've been able to get this to read. Now, if I click on submit now, let's wait for it. Fine. Now, this is the response. This is the response from what? This is the response from my line 69, which is the data that I'm sending, app 69. Now you can see that we have ID. They even give me ID automatically since I'm using a post method, right? So I have the content value, I have the name value, and then I have the title value. But in this case, I could say that I did something very wrong. Why? Because if you check their own endpoint, if you check their own response, their response is coming as name, title, or let's say it's coming as what? It's coming as body, title, and user ID, right? That's what their own is coming as. They don't even have a name for it, right? But we can represent the user ID with a name. So that means all we need to do is now change our own variables to what? To match with this thing. We have to change our own variable to match with this 1, 2, and 3. Because if you check this our own now, it's coming as what? 1, 2, and 3. And this is very wrong. This should be what? User ID. Or sorry, this should be title. This should be user ID, and this should be what? Body. So let's go and change it now. So let's change it to this name should be user ID. This should be title, and then this should be body. Body. Are you guys with me? I hope I'm communicating. I hope we're not getting lost. We've been able to successfully send that data to the backend. We've been able to post, and then from the backend or from the external resources, we get this response. We got this response. This is not our own response. It is the response we got from the API. And then the response is now showing us that this is what we send, right? We have, normally the endpoint is 100 variable, is 100 data. So they assign an ID for us since it is 100. So they're not assigning an ID for us, which is 101, right? So we now have the name, and this is very wrong because I like to have a consistent name variable. So that's why I have to check this one to see how their own name is being written so that we can now change our own also to just show us like that. So now let's see. Let's save this. Someone want to ask a question? George, I think you want to ask something. Or is there anyone who wants to ask a question or anything? Fine, we are good. It's more like because most of us say we are very good now. The boss is them there, so that's why we are not asking questions. But I just want us to understand what is happening here. We posted after posting, just the same way we did .then here. That's what we did here also. .then, and remember, everything here is still inside the fetch. Everything here is inside the fetch parentheses. Everything here is. If I should close it, no. Okay, yeah. Everything is inside the fetch parentheses. The only thing we did was to add another object to it. This is the object here. We just added another object to the fetch. That object is what is added so that we specify what type and what method and the body. So it's the same thing. So don't get confused. It's the same thing. Now, after doing that, after the parentheses, just like we did here, after the parentheses, we do .then. Same thing here. .then, right? Then response. The response from the backend will convert to a JSON format. We now say .then, that data, that converted format, we now represent with the data, and then we console.log it. So that's just the whole process here. Now, let's try this again since we'll make changes to the variable. Now let's go and post again. Let's try, let's say front. Let's say my front end, right? And then the body will now be my front end is cool. It's good. I'm running out of stuff to write. Now let's post it and then wait. Fine. Now we have what? User ID. We have the title. We have the ID, and then we have what? The body. So we can still add another one. Let's say I want to add front 2, my front end 2, and then this one 2, and then I send it again. Then I will get one. I will get it again. So my front end is good. ID 101, and then my front end 2, and all of those things. So if I want to add this thing to this one now, let's assume I want to add this particular variable to this. What do I do? What do I do? I will just say, since I already have this, I will use that data that I used here. just like this. Copy it now. Open this one, and then let's copy this. But in our case, we won't be doing what? We won't be mapping anymore. We are not going to map across this since it's not. It's just a single object, so we cannot map through it. Remember, we can only map through an array which has multiple, but here it's just a single object, so we are not mapping anything. What we are going to do is what? Just copy all of this like this. Just copy this like this from here to here, and then here we can say, since we already have data, so let's say or we could just say, yeah, let's just store it. Let's single data be equals to this. Just paste it there, and then we can now say data dot title, and then data dot user ID, and then data dot body. Right? So we can now say just the same thing we have here, that we say row.inner.html. But in this our own case, we will not just say equals to anymore. We will not say row.inner.html is equal to single data anymore. We won't do this anymore, because if we do this, that means we are replacing single data with row. Everything that we have initially is going to be replaced with single data. But what do we do instead? We say plus or equal to. So what was initially inside the row now, we want to add it with what we have now. So we say plus or equal to single data plus or equal to row.inner.html plus or equal to single data. Now let's save it and see if we are going to get it right. So we have 10 currently. Yeah, we have 10. So let's say my name, let's say Joe, and then Joe, John type, and then John is a very tall man. So let's submit. Okay, it's not defined at submit. Why? Okay, sorry. What is going on here? It should be inside. Sorry. Be inside. Yeah, that's correct. Oh shit. Joe Bassi. Joe is a very tall man. So let's try. Okay, let's see what we have. Now we have it here. As you can see, we have it here. Joe is a very tall man. So this is what I just added now. And well, this thing is looking really messed up. All right, we have the Joe Bassi, which is the name. Sorry, the title. We have the Joe, which is the name, and then we have the content, which is the body of the Joe. So I can still add another one. I can say simple, then another one here, simple tutor, and then here I can say simple is a front end tutor, something like that. So now submit, and then go down and see it. So we've been able to add this, so we can keep adding. You can keep adding as much as you want. Keep adding to the. And one thing is, this is not your data. The initial one is not your data, so you can't possibly delete it. The only one you can delete is the one that you created. And when you refresh your browser, it's definitely going to disappear, because you don't have access. You don't have like we are not authorized to make change, like a master change to the endpoint, to the database. So all we can do is, when you create something, submit it, you're going to see it here for now. But as soon as you refresh, right, you're not going to see it anymore. So that's just the only thing. But for now, what we want to learn is how to post our own data to an endpoint. In case you get an endpoint that has to do with, okay, task submission. So when you get the student submission, you get the student ID, then you create a post, and then you send it to that endpoint, and you display it here. How do you do it? It's just to add it. If you say equals to, it's going to replace everything. But in this our case, we are not interested in replacing it. We just want to add it to what we have initially in the row. So that's it. And then one thing again is when you click on submit, this thing is not disappearing. I expect this to disappear after I click on submit. How do I do that? When you click on submit, right, where is it? Let's say after everything, just remove your fetch, right? Everything is outside. Now, after submitting, I want to return my user ID or name input back to an empty string. So I would just say, is this correct? Yeah, I would say name input dot value will now be equals to what? Empty string. The same thing for this next one. I would say title input dot value equals to empty string, and then the last one I would say content input dot value equals to empty string. Right? Then let's save it and see what we have. Yeah, it's fine. So let's see if it's going to work fine. Simple, right? Then the second one could be simple job, and then let's say simple is a Jobberman. So let's say post. Now, as you can see, everything disappeared, and then if you go down, you see it's a simple is a Jobberman. So it's good so that you can just type another thing. You don't have to keep deleting before you type another thing. Keep deleting for example. Just as soon as you click on submit, return your name input of value, right? Return it back to what? An empty string. Return your title input of value back to an empty string, and return your content input of value back to an empty string. Understand? Now, at some point, I may say, I don't want this thing to be appearing under. I don't want it to be appearing at the bottom of the data. I want it to appear above, right? So how do I do that? I can just reverse. There is a method in JavaScript I use to reverse. You can say your data dot reverse. So it's as simple as that. So I would say where is it? Or instead of that, I could just say, yeah, let me use that instead. I could just say let me see, how can I do this? I want it to appear at the beginning, not at the end. I may have to use a push. So here we have display dot slice map page and all of that, and then row dot inner HTML equals to that display dot join, right? And then can someone suggest something how to make this data to come to the front instead of going down like this? How do you make it come here on top? Suggestions. It's almost time. We're almost out of time, but let's hear from us. Just 11 persons on the call. Wow. So let's talk.
I think it's just you have to use on shift.
So how do we use shift? How do we use on
Shift?
Sorry.
If you call the variable itself, can't you use on shift? Please go up your code. Up here at the top. No, come down with this. Fetch, come down. Single data.
Okay, single data, okay.
Can we do single data, but on shift?
Are you sure? Okay. Single data is not an array. It's just a normal. It's a normal string. It's a normal like HTML.
Okay,
yeah. So what do we do?
Even
sure. me, I'm thinking. Even me, I'm trying to think.
Maybe we should give row.innerHTML plus equal to single data. Like we should give it a variable. Then
we now reverse it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now say it now.
Okay. So okay, let's do let data content
Let data content be equal
equal
to
to row dot inner HTML. Yeah, just put it that way.
row.inner HTML plus or
Plus
equal,
equal,
right?
yeah, single
Single,
data.
yeah, okay.
Then we do data content. Like I don't know where we are going to apply that.
Reverse.
tax.
Okay, so let's say data content dot reverse. Reverse. Yep. Is that it?
Yeah, let's see first.
One thing is, number one is we don't know data content. So data content is not being sent to the UI. But let's see. Let's see. Let's try. So let's say trying it, and then this is it. Okay. So it's not working. It's not working. There's a
Hello,
way.
boss. Hello,
Yes.
boss. Whatever
Yeah.
we are going to reverse is going to be whatever holds the name inputs, the title input,
Exactly.
and the content inputs.
And that is row.
Okay.
So that is just row. So we could say row.inner HTML.reverse. Can we do that? No, we can't. Let's just go over for now. I'll figure out. There's a way I've forgotten how to fix that. This is giving a problem because it's a string. So row.inner HTML plus or equals to single data. And the problem again is it is not. This is inside an submit function, and this is inside another thing. So that's why we are having this issue. But then you could say data dot then. So after getting the single, we are adding it plus or equal to single. Yeah, we are adding it.
Hello, boss.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We can only unshift arrays, Abby.
Yes.
Okay, so which one of these is an array? Which one of the data that we have passed? Because the one we passed back to us is an array, Abby.
Row is not an array. Single data is not an array. The only one that is an array is this guy. Display is an array because we map through it, so it's definitely an array, right? So, but this one is not an array. This is just a single data. So it's not an array.
Okay,
And what?
can you?
Okay, continue.
No, I wanted you to go up. Just go up a bit. I want to
Okay.
check something.
All right.
Fetch. Let's. Okay.
Wait, is it this place or down?
No. We said display is an array, but this
Yeah.
let's AP URL. The second one is not an array. Whatever we did for the submit button was not an array.
Exactly, because we
We converted it to a string.
Yes.
Okay, but then we converted it back to an array later.
No, not an array, just a JSON, just an object that we can easily manipulate, like data dot something. That's just what we did. And this is
Okay,
it. Let's see one thing. Continue.
No, let me get one thing. I think I know where my problem is. How did we get? Because if I solve that, I probably know what to do now. You know, the first one we created, the HTML file we created, we used the first card to display the items, right? To display the structure of our post.
Yes.
And then we did this other stuff to stringify it so that it can be seen with for the back end.
Yes.
Now, the second one we did, this let single data. How did we come up? How did it connect to whatever we were trying to do after? I think that's where the problem is. I don't understand that exactly, because if I do understand that, then I can know how to put it in front. After that, how do we get this other dot then rest and the rest?
Okay. All right. So Yeah, if I get it right, this one is done already. We are done with this part. We've been able to fetch, right? So we don't have an issue
Yes,
with
yes.
it anymore. Now, what is left is we fetch, we get input, then we fetch post, and then we declare the method, the header, and then the body. And then we now say, when you are done fetching, that thing that you send, respond with it again, and let me get it back. So I will now say that response is now, I'm converting the response to a JSON, right? So after converting to a JSON, I want to get the converted value here. Dot then converted value, which is data, will now be equals to, but yes, we get the data already, consider log data, right? But that thing that we get, we are not interested in just printing it to the console. No, we want to add it to our row. Remember, our row has already been used. That means we have something already inside our row, right? So right now, we want to add another thing. And what are we adding? Just a single card. That's what we are adding. Just a single card, which is this entire thing is what we are adding. And we are going to be adding it at a point, at a time. Like for every time we click, we're going to be adding this entire syntax, which is this entire syntax, like this HTML. We're going to be adding it to what? Our row. Initially, this is our initial row. So for every time we click, we are adding this new thing. We're adding this new thing to it. So we cannot make it an array because it is just a single object.
Which is a plus or equal to, which means that every
Exactly.
click it adds and it's
Exactly.
still equal to the main row itself.
Exactly. That is perfect.
Okay.
That is
That
just
means
what
the syntaxes we're using to take it to the back end are just constant. They are just the way it's written. It's nothing. You can't
yes.
change it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So whatever we structure now is just an addition to what we did the first time. Okay. That's
Exactly.
understood.
It's very simple. So the same thing if you want to do, in some cases, what I do mostly, I will just store the string inside a variable. I will store the string inside a function, right? I will just say, instead of repeating this syntax every time, since it's the same thing, I'll just store it inside a function and I will call it. Okay, let's try if we can do that. So that we don't have to keep repeating ourselves. You can say, go up and create the function. Say const string this HTML display equal to. So we just paste this one, return this, right? So we are going to get each. That's the, because we have each here, so we need to pass each as a parameter that we are going to be passing to the function. Let's not get confused though. So let's do it this way. So after this, we say come in. Let's see if it's going to work fine also. So what do we do? HTML display. So what's the, so each will now be what? Each. So let's see if it's going to work. We still need to return this. Okay, let's see. It's still working. And then the same thing, we can do it here also. So remove everything. Say, you can even remove it from yourself. Come, let's see. So that's one way you can use to just reduce your code. So we can say HTML display this, and then we pass what? Data. Let's see if it's going to work too. Let's try it. Try now. Trying again. So submit. It worked. Well, I will find a way to reverse it. I will find a way to make us so that this thing is going to be displaying at the top. I will definitely find a way. And then if we want to edit also the same thing, I will find a way to do that also. And then also delete. Let's see if we can fix delete now, or maybe the next class. The next class is going to be on Tuesday. Honestly, I'll prefer that we have a class this night so we can finish with this API. And then next week we're going to pick something interesting, something else that is very interesting. We don't want to wait on this API because next week is going to be the second, the mini final. Because if you did not follow the set of people going to stage 8 next week, then you are not going to stage 8. And the task will be given on Tuesday, and submission or deadline will be on Sunday, or let's say on Sunday. So promotion will be done on Monday. So there may not be time for us to make a research anymore. So I will prefer if we can have a class this night or tomorrow or even the weekend. So we just finish the API, right? Let's just finish the API, and then on Monday after the task, or we can just do something else, because I will give us a task. Certain place we look for something for us to do, and I will need to explain a little things about it, how we can achieve some of those things. I've seen it, and it's a little bit I know we can fix it. Nothing is bigger for us. Nothing is big for us. So, but then we still have to explain to ourselves how best we can achieve the best result from it. So if we have time during the week or during the weekend, just let me know. Someone should just reach out to me so we can complete. We can talk about the updates, the edits, which is the updates, the puts, which is the update, the creates, which we've done already, the deletes, and then the what else? I think delete. Yeah, that's all. So let's try that. So for now, what I did initially here is I have a syntax. I have an HTML syntax. That this is it. This is the HTML syntax. So, but then I realized that this thing is going to be appearing multiple times, because I will have it inside my get, I will have it inside my post, and I'll also have it inside my delete. I'll have it inside my edit. So I don't want to be having it like that, like just repeating myself every time that I need it. So instead of that, I copied everything and put it inside a function. I called it HTML display, right? But then remember, for us to display each of these things, we are using what? Each. This parameter is each, which we are getting from here, right? So that's why we copy every syntax and then we paste it here. But then we need to specify, we need to pass something as parameter here that will represent the each. Don't get confused. When we were using it here, this is our each, right? Each is what we use for the syntax. We use each dot something, each dot something. So the same each is what we call, or we pass as argument to this HTML display. And the same each is what is there, right? And then that is the same each we are using here. It's just a tree, something like that. That okay, from here we pass it to this one, and then that one we pass it to this one as parameter, and this one, which contains title, USD, and body, is also the same thing that we pass it, right? If you don't want to add a return statement, you can remove it like this. It's also the same thing. You can just have it this way. It's still going to work, but this does not really look nice. So that's why we have it HTML display, and then return this syntax. That's what I want you to return. Take this as an argument or as a parameter. So we now call that thing here HTML display. Instead of all of this, then we are using this one. Since this represents this now, we're now using HTML display. So we are passing this parameter here as the argument to the HTML display. The same thing happens here. Row.innerHTML will now be equals to this. Row.innerHTML will now be equals to this. Remember this. Why do we have it initially as this? Initially we said let single data, right? Let single data be equals to, we can do that also, HTML display and then data. But I just felt instead of repeating ourselves like this, we can just avoid this one and just copy this and paste it in directly. So that's just what happens now. And don't forget, let's try not to repeat ourselves, and always return your input back to an empty string. Every time you press you click on submit, return your input back to an empty string. Any question? Intiense, Jasmine, Samuel, Sammy, Tangard, Ezebong, are we lost? No, we are not.
I think we need the video as quickly as possible.
We are lost, though. We need to rewatch it.
Okay, no problem. Now I'll try as much as possible to tell the admin to upload it latest tomorrow morning. I'll try my best to do that.
Hello, boss. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you said today we have done the posts. What about the post method, Abby? What about, you said something about get. Which one is the get here?
Get is this. don't specify a method for get, like I said. Get is the first one that we did last week. Get is fetch
That's the
everything.
fetch.
Yeah,
Okay.
to fetch.
Okay.
But don't
Then the
forget,
post.
fetch is also the same thing that you use for post. It's the same thing that you use for delete. The fetch is basically to get the URL. Then you now specify, I want to post this thing. If you want to post to it, that's where you pass a method. But if it is a get only, you only want to get the data. So you are not passing any method, which is what happens here. This is a get method, but we are not
Okay.
passing. Like I said, a get is by default. Like fetch by default uses a what? A get method.
Which is
So
what we did last Tuesday.
exactly. So you don't need to specify get for that one. If you do it, there's nothing wrong with it. You can do it also. Let's say we want to do that. You can say, just add this. We are not passing anybody. So we can just say get, comma, here. But then this will now be what? Get.
We change post to get.
Exactly. This will now be get, just like this. But there's no point in doing this since fetch by default we use method of get. So that's why we decided not to add it at all. And that's the best thing you can do. If you are fetching only, if you are getting only, you don't need to pass any method. But if you want to do other things, that's where it is needed for you to what? That's where it is needed. Thank God. Don't worry, you get the video. It is needed for you to what? Pass the method if you want to do post or delete or update. So that's it.
Okay,
Well,
boss, one more question. If we stringify and send it to the back end, we still need to do the dot then to return it. Or I think we only did that because we wanted it to show back in our UI.
exactly. That's just it. In some cases, maybe all you have to do is just to send it out to the backend. You don't need all of this. If
You don't need
all
the
you
dot then 69.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
if you only need to send it to the backend, you don't need then. But because we want to get it back so that we can display it, that's where we need
So we
this
can
dot then.
add to the
Exactly,
to
so
the
that we can add it
HTML.
to the row. Exactly. So that's just
Okay,
basically it.
I
Are we
get
good?
it. I don't think we need the details. I don't think it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sticky.
The video is simple. Honestly, it's simple. And I know most of us here we okay, David is boss, George is Oga, Donato says everybody here we are okay.
David is our boss. So.
Everybody, even Jasmine and Nite say Sammy is Odogu. Like everybody here is very okay. It's just for you guys to just go through it again and then just try and understand. Please, when you are, I want you guys to just build it on your own. Just try and build something like that on your own again. Because when you type something, type it with your hand, you get to grab it better. When you're typing, you realize, okay, what is this one doing now? Why am I typing this one? Why do I even need this one? So you need it because of this. Then just like that, you get to understand what you're doing better. So thank you very much, guys. Well, we meet anytime during the week or during the weekend if you guys want us to meet. Else, we meet again next week.
We want to.
We meet again next week on Tuesday, inshallah. And if you have not been graded, if you are yet to submit your assignments, please try and do that now so that we can, because while we are waiting to be grouped, while we are waiting, I want us to have the task on time so that we can fix it on time. I don't want anybody to be left behind. Every one of us who are in stage 6 now or stage 7 or yeah, are we in stage 7?
Yes, stage 7.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. So everybody who get to stage 7 has to go. I don't want a situation whereby maybe one person in a group is dragging another person back. So if we have the task as soon as possible, then we have enough time for us to fix it. Do you understand? So that by Monday everybody can just move straight to the project phase. So thank you very much, guys. Let's reach out to our friends that are still behind, whatever it is that is stopping them. Let's try as much as possible to help them. The certificate is very important. Just get it, and then you're good, and then we can now start moving forward. And again, next year we can all move to React or move to Vue or whichever framework we are interested in. But as for me, let me stop recording first before. Okay, stop recording.